The golfing world is in full turmoil mode these days as rival competitions have started to entice PGA Tour's most valued golfers. Of course, with a quote-unquote war like this, there's always a ton of drama involved as well. And drama is exactly what we've got as Greg Norman throws Phil Mickelson under the bus in a $3 billion golf war. Let's dive right into it. First up, what's up with the $3 billion golf war? If you haven't been following the world of golf for a while, hold on to something right now, because this might shock you. In a move that took everyone by surprise, the 51-year-old golf legend Phil Mickelson decided to snub the PGA Tour in favor of a Saudi-backed Invitational series just last month. Now, why was this such a big deal, you ask? Well, the thing is that the PGA Tour is super strict about its rules regarding who can compete in what tournament, and one area of which is considered truly forbidden is taking part in rival competitions in North America. So, when Mickelson decided to take part in the LIV Golf Invitational Series, which obviously had events in the US as well, he essentially gave a big FU to the PGA, and of course, he wasn't doing it out of pure spite, as he was promised a $42 million payday, which, to be fair, is a lot for somebody at his age. Now, losing one golf star is fine for most organizations, but things really started to look grim for the PGA when other stars like Sergio Garcia, Ian Poulter, and Lee Westwood also decided to join the oldest major champion. But naturally, this was a step too far for the PGA, and it decided to shut this whole breakaway movement down by sending out threats, saying that they would ban every Saudi series participant from the tour. And this is how we got to this bizarre $3 billion golf war. Next, Phil Mickelson was the one that derailed the Saudi League. Fast forward to the modern day, and it all seems to be falling apart for the Rebel Golf League. And now, what was initially planned as a $3 billion rival to the PGA is now left with a much more scaled-back tournament, with many golfers already quitting. According to the Aussie golf icon Greg Norman, who also happens to be the CEO of this breakaway league, Mickelson is the one to blame for his new venture's failure. Speaking with ESPN, Norman said that the Saudi-funded venture was ready to spend $3 billion to really compete with the PGA, but the 51-year-old's comments about the Middle Eastern country's culture have derailed everything. Now you might be asking, what did Phil Mickelson even say that had such massive ramifications? Also, wasn't he a part of this thing, with his $42 million paycheck and everything? Well, yeah, but it seems like there was way more convincing to be done on that front, as Mickelson wasn't entirely sure about taking part in the league, especially if it cost him his PGA membership. But that's not all though, as the 51-year-old made some pretty strange remarks about the Saudi League and the PGA in Alan Shipnuck's book. It's gotta be the question, what did he say? For starters, he described the Saudi backers of the new league as scary and criticized their horrible human rights record. Now, this was probably the right thing to do morally, but it's obviously pissed off a lot of investors. He didn't stop there though, as he said that this was the reason he was taking part in the league, was to gain leverage over the PGA and reshape the tour. And it seems like nobody liked Mickelson's comments. When you manage to anger one party in a competition, that's usually fine because you've got the other side to lean on. But what if you piss off both of them? Yeah, things get a little tricky. And that's what happened with Phil Mickelson, as both of the Saudis and the PGA Tour condemned his comments and asked him to apologize. Not only that, but being the frontrunner of the breakaway league, Mickelson had to bear the brunt of the PGA's force as he was barred from competing at the Masters in Augusta. When John Ram said that he was hoping for a change of heart for Mickelson, he probably didn't mean something like this, but it seems like he might have gotten what he desired anyways, as these offhanded comments have kind of stopped the momentum of this newly formed Saudi League. The Saudi League was all ready to go. Of course, these comments from Mickelson not only derailed the Saudi-funded Invitational Series, but also kind of hurt everything else. And this is exactly what Greg Norman thinks too. According to him, the comments hurt the PGA Tour, the breakaway league, the game of golf, and Phil Mickelson himself. So, while it wasn't exactly targeted towards the new series, it still brought up enough negativity into the mix for the PGA and the general golf audience to have a reaction. And this strong reaction prompted many of the top golfers to pull out of the league. Had he not made these comments, the LIV Invitational Series would have already been underway, says Norman. According to him, up to 30% of the world's top 50 players had agreed to switch sides and leave the PGA behind, and everything was locked and ready to go in February. But when everything unfolded, the players got the jitters and the PGA threatened people with lifetime bans. And not all of the fault lies on Mickelson though. Now, Phil Mickelson didn't really do himself any favors by making these comments against literally everyone and antagonizing the entire golfing community, but Greg Norman says that his new league couldn't succeed because of the 51-year-old being kinda disingenuous. You see, projects of this size don't get derailed simply because of one man's comments in a book. So it seems like the league needed a scapegoat to cover its own failures, and Norman chose the frontrunner Mickelson for that role. In reality though, this whole plan was rigged to fail from the start, as many players were only on board on the condition that they would still take part in the PGA Tour events throughout the year. But of course, when the PGA decided to pull the rug from underneath everybody and start sending out lifetime ban threats, there was no way anybody was going to stick around for much longer. Obviously, the big paychecks that were being offered to these players would have been super lucrative, which prompted them to take that risk in the first place. However, most of these golfers have dreamt of playing on the PGA Tour their entire lives. And when you get there, it's like a dream come true anyways. And of course, there's also the element of building a legacy and your brand, especially when you're part of the top 50 golfers around. So when all of that is at stake, there's no amount of money that's enough to entice these players. Having said all that though, it seems like the Saudi League isn't quite ready to back down yet and is already preparing to adapt and make a comeback. Up next, scaled back LIV Golf Series is still happening. After so much drama and protests from the fans and golfers alike, the Saudi-funded LIV Golf Series has finally decided to cut back on its initial promises and switch over to an 8-tournament schedule. This new format's going to allow players to take part in the league while still being a member of the PGA Tour, as it doesn't encroach upon the North American territory anymore. However, this scaling back doesn't mean that the prize pool is getting any smaller, as the tournament is still offering up a jaw-dropping $361 million in prize money. Oh, and Phil Mickelson is also set to take part in this upcoming series, but this time around, he has also registered to take part in the PGA Tour and the US Open. Speaking to the press, the 51-year-old's manager Steve Loy said that they filled the request for a release to play in the first LIV Golf Invitational event ever in London. According to him, the request fully complies with the deadline set forth by the PGA for competing in a conflicting event, and it also enables him to remain a lifetime member of the tour. However, he ended the statement in a rather strange manner, as he said that Phil currently has no concrete plans on when and where he'll play, and that any actions taken are not a reflection on the final decision. Now that's a pretty weird thing to say, but it seems like Mickelson is still looking forward to some form of leverage over the PGA, to do a switcheroo and open this Pandora's box out of controversy yet again. But knowing that he's always had a strenuous relationship with the PGA Tour, we really don't blame him for keeping his options open. Besides Mickelson though, other golfers are also now probably free to take part in the breakaway league. So it would be interesting to see who steps up again. And also for those on the other side of the pond in the European Tour, things couldn't have been easier, as the DP World Tour hasn't restricted any of its golfers from competing in rival tournaments. And that's a wrap for this video. Do you think that Phil Mickelson deserves another chance to compete in the PGA Tour, especially after his manager's statement? Let us know in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.